Vicky goes on and on with Vicky Stokes and James Wells.
How are you? Are you okay?
I've been a bit ill all week.
What? And you didn't message me to tell me?
Well, what are you going to do about it?
I've entertained you via WhatsApp.
I was so ill that I wouldn't even have been able to be entertained.
Did you just sit there and watch loads of TV?
I watched so much New Girl.
Oh,
and
did
you're
you?
right, it's great. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Well, do you know what? That's on the list to rewatch because we never got to the end.
Oh, didn't you?
No. Because we were watching it when it was on E4, so it was really poxy, you know.
And they kept moving it around schedules.
So I ended up giving up.
Yeah, right. Well, I didn't really watch the season when she goes off because she got pregnant.
No.
Oh well,
I know she got pregnant, but
yeah, and so they wrote it They wrote an absence for her.
I can tell you when I stopped watching it.
Go on.
After the Indian wedding.
Oh right, that's really early.
Yeah, I know, because they carried it on for quite a while, didn't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll definitely get.
Well, I know that's really early because I've been watching it.
But the problem is it's not the problem, but I'll have to go back to the start and watch it from the beginning.
But you know what? It's so
because the pilot
good.
is so funny.
And
when they're in the restaurant,
season 1 is so good.
Yeah.
I laughed out loud so many times. And
we
were discussing before when you were alone
and you don't
really know. So that's how good it is.
Do you know what? I've been doing that with. I mean, I'm technically not alone because Hayley's here, but she's not watching it, so I am alone. Right. I'm alone in my own thoughts, watching something on my own. Laurel and Hardy, and there's so many Laurel and Hardys that I've seen. But there's many that I haven't, because when I was a kid, I'd watch them with my granddad. And maybe this is something to talk about in nostalgia, but I would watch the same like 4 or 5 films.
Yeah.
So now I've got the box set, and because of lockdown, I'm kind of like, no, I'm going to sit and I'm going to watch all this stuff. All these box sets I've got sitting there, which I haven't watched yet. But yeah, Laurel and Hardy, and I was laughing out loud. So, but I wanted to say to you actually. So on the box sets that I've got, they are, and I've been watching them. There's Spanish versions of Laurel and Hardy. Yeah, and it's fascinating. And I knew that it happened with obviously Spain because of Mexico. It's a similar language, isn't it? You know. They don't. Yeah,
it's the same as like American English.
Yes,
to English.
Yeah. So
there are some words.
I assume that a Spanish person, if they went to Mexico, would get by.
Oh, absolutely, just like we would in America.
In America, yeah.
But you might get confused by like if somebody said my fanny pack and you'd never heard that expression. You might be like, what the heck is a fanny pack?
Yeah. So.
Or here's the best one. My mum and I were discussing this yesterday, actually, because I'm trying to do.
Is this an English or a Spanish thing?
It's a Mexican problem.
Right. Okay.
So in Spain.
All right, Donald Trump.
The way. I don't mean it like that. Duolingo, even though it has the Spanish flag, is teaching me Mexican.
Right,
but I know loads of Spanish words, and I know what the difference is, so it's okay, mostly. But I was just checking in with my mum. One of them. Can't remember now. Anyway, and we were discussing that, like in Spanish, a car is un coche, right?
Un
coche. And when you go to the supermarket, you put your groceries in un carro, a trolley.
Oh,
right?
Okay, yeah.
But in Mexico,
shopping cart, un carro, yeah.
Right, yeah. But in Mexico, un carro is a car. And we were discussing that it was like, there is a part of my brain that thinks about people driving around in shopping trolleys. It's ridiculous.
Build
in
a wall,
Mexico,
get rid of them.
They don't speak proper Spanish.
Oh. That's Trump's. Anyway. Maybe that's Trump's only. Maybe Trump loves Spain, and he's just like, you don't speak proper Spanish. You're fake Spaniards. Get out.
Trump is such a lunatic.
Oh, he's a twat.
Come on, I can't. abide him.
Well,
Just-
speaking of vampires, anyway, I was watching the Dracula, the Universal Monsters one, and it's and there's a whole other movie on this Blu-ray box set, and I discovered that it was common in filmmaking of the time to make a Spanish version because obviously to
Mexico's
appeal,
a big,
to appeal
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that side of the world. But what they would do is they would go in and they would film. So in the case of Dracula, they would go in and they would film the Bela Lugosi version during the day, and then in the evening, the Spanish cast and crew would come in and use the same sets, not necessarily, you know. And actually, what I also found fascinating is what everyone regards Dracula. What everyone regards the best thing about it is Bela Lugosi's performance. However, in terms of cinematography and the way everything's shot and the lighting and the pace, the Spanish version is deemed better. That's just an opinion, but that's what everyone thinks. Because even though they were using the sets and costumes, they didn't have to go by the same storyboards and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the thing that I didn't realize that happened in filmmaking, and it turns out that the same thing, a similar thing, was with Laurel and Hardy. So they've got on these DVDs. As extras the Spanish versions, and it would basically be so unlike the Dracula where a whole new cast would come in, you would have the majority of the cast, all the B players as would be Spanish speaking actors. Dan Laurel and Oliver Hardy would have to learn phonetically. It's fantastic. Okay. And so you're watching it and you can see every now and again out the corner of their eye, they're looking at like auto cues. Cue cards.
Prompt cards,
to say these
remember the Spanish.
And honestly, I mean, I'm not a Spaniard, so I don't
I'm not a Spaniard.
But I mean, for some, is that what it is? Spanish? I'm not Spanish.
Spaniard, no, you were right, but I'm not Spaniard.
Well, no, you're English.
Got a British passport, mate.
But because you can
listen, don't you fucking.
I would be fascinated to see what you think, because from someone that can't speak it at all, watching them and listening to them, it sounds
that's like brilliant. I know,
and
where
they
you're
do
going
it very, very well.
Because Nat King Cole.
Yes, I love.
He did a whole, I think, more than one albums of Spanish speaking, and he's very popular in Spain, certainly my mum's generation. But the pronunciation is hilarious, but his accent is crap. But but he's such a good singer that all the Spaniards are like, Nat King Cole, he's so good. He's like Mariquita instead of Mariquita. And it's like, you know that song, I only ever remember it in English, but you know the one, but if you say you love me, go on, you only tell me, you always wonder, perhaps. Yeah. So in Spanish, that's quizás.
And how does
he says quizás. It's such but
you know what? If you've got a voice like Velvet, if you've got a voice like Velvet,
no one cares.
It's
just such
do you know what? Nat King Cole could bring out an album of hits in a Cockney style, and you would go, yeah, fair enough.
Rabbit.
Rabbit.
He's so good, but I can't help but pronounce his name.
Velvet.
Nat King Cole.
He's got a voice like Velvet, and Sam Cooke has a voice like Silk. That's all I'm saying. Honestly.
Tell me a Sam Cooke number. I know him.
Cupid, draw back your bow.
Yes.
And that's the sound of a man working on the chain. Yeah.
I don't know that song.
Oh, fucking
hell. I know the first one.
Sam, there's actually, I haven't watched it yet, but it's a documentary I want to watch on Netflix. The 2 killings of Sam Cooke, because he got murdered, didn't he?
Did he?
So I'd like to know what the second one is.
Who was he murdered by?
Well, I think this is what the documentary goes into because it was never fully established.
Oh,
Yeah,
so it's not like Marvin Gaye, where he was murdered by his father.
Yeah,
Jeez, Lou.
yeah. I
Oh,
mean, daddy issues. I mean, Jesus.
tell me about it.
I mean, that's
And
why I
isn't
heard it.
it-
That's what I heard on the grapevine.
God, fuck off. I knew you were going to say that. But isn't it that the dad killed him with a gun that he bought him as a gift?
I think so. You know.
God. Anyway.
I mean,
this isn't about what we were going to talk about.
No, but it's
because we wanted to have a catch up.
But
really.
do you know what? There's a connection because it's looking back, isn't it?
There is a connection. So we're ostensibly here to talk about nostalgia. Because I think we're living in a golden age of nostalgia. And
Yes.
I think you'll agree.
I do. Do you think that is primarily because of lockdown, or do you think it's been going on for a while?
I think it's been going on since the 90s.
Yeah?
That's when because although we have a tendency, and I'm sure your family's the same because you've got a wide range of siblings, age-wise.
Yeah.
In my family, we often talk about like, oh, do you remember this program? Do you remember? And also we have a tendency, which is why I enjoy talking with you particularly, where we just quote shit at each other.
Yeah.
So we'll just quote young ones constantly, for example, or like if there's a particular scene, for example, right? I don't know how familiar you are with the young ones, but my brother Stephen one day was complaining about doing some housework. And so I said, because it was good, when you can feel that something's going to kick off unless you break the tension.
Yeah.
And I said, just because you do a little bit of housework, which is a quote from the young ones, and immediately everyone starts laughing and it's fine, like disaster.
So they got it.
Yeah. Because it's one of the things that we would quote a lot.
Yeah. And you do, when you're around friends and family and you've got something in common, it becomes like an in-joke, even though it's not an in-joke.
Of course, no.
Because you're reflecting on something that brought you all together. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. And it's, fun times, and you don't have to, I don't know, have an original thought, maybe. Is that what it is?
Yeah, but then if you had an original thought, no one would laugh because they would...
Because they're scumbags.
Yes, exactly.
They don't appreciate my humour.
No.
I'm going to be the Vincent van Gogh of the humour world. Oh, well. Anyway, but so we've always had a tendency to do that. And I think that probably repeats itself in households all over the gaff. And then the internet happened, and it meant that we could all globally, collectively reminisce together.
Yeah.
And then some beautiful people have these things recorded, or they have like the big yellow teapot from when we were little, and they put it on the internet and they say, look, do you remember this? And we're like, oh yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. I mean, they're the unsung heroes, aren't they? The people,
really
when you
are.
go on YouTube and people that have taken the time
I love them.
to get an old VHS copy out of something and put it up for everyone else. They're not doing it for themselves. They're literally doing it for everyone else.
Well, yeah, because they have it, right?
Yeah, they've got
and
it.
The people
so they can keep it to themselves if they wanted
who have uploaded the Raccoons theme song. I love those people because the Raccoons theme song is the best theme song ever written, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah,
but
that's tune.
Is that because of?
No, it's a great song. No, it's just I've always loved that song. Come on, do you know the one I mean?
Are you going to give us a bit of it?
Don't you remember it? Run with us, we've got passion in our eyes. Run with us, we are free. I mean, it's such an 80s power ballad.
I was going to say,
so great.
There's not a lot of bad 80s theme tunes.
No. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest problems with TV nowadays.
Oh, theme tunes, yeah. But
there are no theme tunes.
But can you imagine in 30 years' time, what have you got to look back on, like theme tune wise, TV wise?
New Girl.
Yeah, but to be fair, New Girl aside, because that is a good theme tune.
It is and it's a good show, but it's hard, isn't it, to think about nostalgia. The present.
You can't think about. You can't think about
No,
nostalgia in the present. You can't,
particularly not
you know.
nowadays.
No, I mean,
I mean, the world's on fire.
Because everything.
But that's part of it, isn't it? Is that we look back. Whenever we look back, we have a tendency to only remember the good bits, because of course those are the bits that we want to remember, and PTSD means that we want to get rid of the negative things.
Yes.
Because when I think about it, I'm like, no, actually, like the 80s were shit. They were awful. It was an awful time. But I was a child and I went to school. What responsibilities did I have? The 90s, at the time, I remember thinking, ugh, this is a bit, you know, and now we look back and go, oh, it was great. The Spice Girls, whom you know, I was not a fan, but they're colourful and it was all fun and, you know, Britpop and New Labour.
The good times, don't you? Yeah.
Of course.
Do you think that pop culture and the media play a big impact in how huge nostalgia is now? Because as you say, in that, I mean, when we look at nostalgia, we look at music.
It's certainly repackaged
television
in a different way, isn't it?
Yeah. And everything else, I think, comes with that. I mean, even when it comes to politics, I think everyone.
Oh, of course, because pop culture is part of social history, and comes out of whatever is going on in the world, right? Like I really like dystopian fiction, and one of the things that I noted about it when I was trying to write a dissertation was that basically whatever the sort of most popular dystopian novels of a particular era were very particular to that era. For example, 1984 was written in the wake of the Second World War, so it's about a totalitarian state, and then afterwards you've got like the fear about the Cold War and nuclear disaster, so you've got On the Beach and various other, like The Earth Abides, various other sort of like global cataclysm rather than political, really, in a way. Do you know what I mean? And then in the 90s and early 2000s, I would say that it became much more terrorist-led / green, like environmental stuff, which is when you got like The Road and that sort of thing. So anyway, my big idea for my dissertation, which did not happen, was that dystopian fictions are a product of their time. I mean, how many dystopian novels are going to come out of the coronavirus? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not to say that there weren't any books written before about viruses and pandemics. There was Stephen King's The Stand, for example, which is a fucking amazing book. But I feel like there's just going to be so many more, right?
Here's an alternative reality because of coronavirus. It'll be things like that.
Yes. Yeah. So, and you know, obviously the world's a complicated place, and so there are lots of different dystopian fictions that you can read and whatever, and they all are sort of rooted in something real, is my point. So yeah, I think it's a fair question. I think that the media now packages it in a particular way, right? So because it's all about consumerism, isn't it? So we can now buy box sets from when we were kids. You can buy I don't know, name a TV show from when we were little. You could buy whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like
Thundercats, can't you? You can buy Thundercats, and if you don't want to buy it, you can probably watch it on
Thundercats,
YouTube. You know,
has been rebooted, hasn't it?
No, I don't think it has. He-Man has.
No, Thundercats has, and it's disgusting. And oh my god, let's not even talk about it. It's disgusting.
And maybe nostalgia plays a part in when people do remakes of stuff. You know what I mean? Like when they bring out like a new Ghostbusters or something. It's like, and like even I mean, I have my views on the female Ghostbusters, but even when it came out and people were going, this desecrates what I loved as a child. It's like it doesn't, because that film still exists. That film still exists. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
That film, you will still sit there, watch that film, and get memories from when you were a child, and that I think a lot of the time. I mean, for me, you know, regardless if a film is good or not, part of it is the memories that come with it. Yesterday, I was watching Popeye the movie, Robin Williams. I honestly think it's one of his finest films ever.
I think I went to the cinema with my mum to watch it.
So, but for me, it's not just the film; it's the memory
of course, yeah.
So when I was a child, coming from a split family, every weekend I'd spend with my dad, and we'd go to the local video shop, and being a kid, you want to watch the same shit all the time. And there was about 5 films. We'd go in there, we'd spend about 45 minutes in there picking films, and I'd always come out with the same ones. Yeah. One of them
you
was.
Should have just bought it, you idiot.
Do you know what? There was a couple of films there where he ended up just buying them from the guy in the end. But yeah.
Although you might be too young to remember, but when VHS first came out, and certainly up until the late 80s, a videotape would cost a fucking fortune.
It was like 15 quid at least.
No, it was like 50 quid. 50.
Bollocks.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding you.
I mean, you're a little bit older than me.
I am. And also I've got older brothers who reinforce my memories.
Well, exactly.
This is what I was saying. So there are lots of things that I remember better because they would be, because they'd be like, oh, do you remember this? And I'd be like, no. And then they would remind me, and then that would make me go, oh my God, and is this a real thing? And they'd be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, VHS was extortionate, which is why video rental shops were so popular, because you couldn't afford a videotape. It's really bloody expensive.
Yeah.
And now, you get them for
DVDs.
People throw them at you.
Oh, good.
Oh, I know.
Well, but then again, this whole nostalgia thing, like, HMV and stuff went through a period of selling films on VHS exclusive. Like they were selling. This was last year. It was like Back to the Future.
Oh, right.
And obviously, I think that is a knock on from the popularity of things like Stranger Things.
Yes.
And
and also vinyl's making a big resurgence.
which is great.
Now look, I have mentioned earlier that I do own a record player. I have about 10 records. It must be said that the sound is nicer.
Yeah.
But it is easier. I tell you what. With like, I've got Amazon Music, but a lot of people have got Spotify. In this sort of streaming world, I don't listen to albums anymore, and that is a real shame, actually, because there are albums that you can listen to from the beginning to the end, and old albums,
absolutely perfect.
And you might skip one track, but in the olden days when it was cassette tape, in my case,
you never skipped.
You couldn't be bothered because
because it was a lot more hassle than it's worth, because you were fast forwarding, rewinding. Oh, I've gone too far.
Go to the week.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm the opposite from you. During this lockdown period, I've been building my CD collection, which I was doing anyway. But obviously, the extra bit of cash that's sitting there,
James,
and you can buy them for like 20p now on Amazon and eBay.
I've got so many CDs.
But I listen to albums all the way through. Isn't it funny?
And I used to,
Yeah.
But I was always a greatest hits kind of woman, though. If there was a band that I'd only just got into, I'd be like, I'll get the greatest hits.
Well, greatest hits are good for that. They're like, I like what they've got to offer. Let's see the whole.
Yeah. Exactly. Like Hall & Oates, for example.
Yeah.
I love Hall & Oates.
Yeah. And the good thing about greatest hits is that it breaks up an album. So like, if you listen to a greatest hits, then if you get one of their albums, standard albums, then there might be one or two scattered on that album that you've heard of greatest hits.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like, at least I'm going to hear something I already know,
Yes. And so when I was a kid, my brother Stephen had all these CDs and tapes and things, and we would listen to music together, and he's got a really eclectic taste in music, and I think because of him, so do I. But he would put on like Tears for Fears or Hall & Oates or Tracy Chapman or The Clash. He loves The Clash. And you might only remember a couple of them. Then you turn 18, 19, you get yourself a job. You think, I want to start buying my own CDs that cost 15, 20 quid a pop at this point.
Yeah.
So, you'd save up a little bit of your wages. And then I'd be like, I really want to own my own Hall & Oates CD. Stephen's got 4 of them. I can't afford to buy those 4. I'll just get a greatest hits, a double CD, double whammy, and I've got, you know, quite a bit of the music that I want to listen to.
Yeah.
Basic. That was my thinking.
Yeah, I mean, greatest hits are great.
Yeah, they're great.
Isn't it interesting
And also,
what you were saying about, you know, vinyl and audio cassette and, you know, fast forwarding, rewinding, all the hassle? Isn't it interesting that people, when you think of nostalgia, a lot of people are talking about how, you know, nostalgia is very much, it was easier, simpler times. But then on the flip side of that, it's a lot easier to go on, you know,
that's
iTunes
a really good
or
point,
Amazon
actually.
and just press download and you've bought a song.
You're absolutely
You
right.
know, how weird
I never
is that?
thought. No, I never thought of that.
You know, which then makes you wonder, in 40 years' time, if it's this easy for us now, 40 years' time when we're looking back and go, it was so
look
much
how much
easier.
Googling I wouldn't have to do.
Well,
because when I was a kid, I've always had this brain that's like, oh, what does this mean? What is that? You know, what is that?
Yeah.
And I'd write down my sort of queries, and then when I'd get to an encyclopedia, I'd look them up. And nowadays, of course, I just whip my phone out, Google it, and then I know the answer, right?
Yeah.
And then I end up in a rabbit hole of, oh, that's an interesting thing. And then, you know, the whole day's gone. But anyway, I think I might have ADHD. So yeah, that's a really good point, because I found in a box when I was moving out, because obviously I'd never moved out before the first time, right? And I'd found a box in my room that was full of scraps of paper of quotes and like things to look up later. And I was like, you fucking lunatic. Well, of course I don't have that anymore because I just Google things.
Yeah.
So you're right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and I never thought of it before. You know, now I'm like, oh, I wonder what John Ronson's written, and then I just buy it on my phone
exactly.
to read. Even though I own a Kindle, I still read it on my phone. I'm such a loser. Anyway,
I think when you look back, a lot of people look back, and you know, nostalgia is a very positive thing. It's not a negative thing. You don't look, you know, you're not nostalgic.
But it never used to be.
No, but you're not nostalgic for bad things, are you?
No.
Nostalgia, you're looking back on the good times, like you said. You know, you can go, it was so much easier then, because you're not thinking about all the other shit that went in between. You know?
Did you know?
What?
In the past, it has been classified as a psychological disorder.
How far are we going? When you say past, are you saying?
Well, look, it says. I read a thing, and it said,
go on.
By the 17th century, nostalgia was regarded as a form of psychological disorder.
17th century.
Yeah, so pre-17th century existed. I mean, what are they getting nostalgic for?
I was going to say, like, Jesus.
Yeah,
like, surely nostalgia was invented earliest, you know, beginning of the 20th century. Fuck mine.
No.
You know.
It's a legit thing, man.
I mean, who's looking back
and it
going,
used to also be called
it was a lot easier when we had...
homesickness.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck.
So there you go.
So it was a disorder, a mental disorder.
Yeah. Because I suppose I understand that it could be really bad for you, couldn't it? If you're just constantly harking on about, you know, longing for something that you cannot go to. You can't visit the past. You got to get on with it and look to the future, right? So I suppose I can understand how detrimental it can be. But then, I mean, I think that it's detrimental.
I mean, surely if it's becoming a disorder, it's turning into more of a regretful thing rather than nostalgic. You know, you're looking back, you're thinking maybe, I should have done this.
Do you only think nostalgia is a positive thing?
I personally do, but I try to be positive. So when I think back to being in bands when I was younger and going out every weekend and having drinks, I think of that as good times when it was a bit free. I don't think
I miss them and I want to go back to that.
I think I went through a period of doing that, I think most people do, don't they? I think most people, and you either come out the other side of it or you don't. You're always looking to be young or go back to when it was easier and when you were younger. Or some people embrace getting older, and the new challenges and the new phasing.
Well, as we discussed last week, although that wasn't recorded, obviously,
that was a recreational.
It was a recreational chat.
Yeah.
But as we discussed, you and I aren't far off 40, which means we're almost dead.
I mean, it is pretty much death, isn't it? So once we get to 40, we'd definitely be looking back. So,
I don't know. I'm not enjoying anything at the moment. Well, this is fun. This is nice. This is a positive part of my life.
In the current climate of COVID-19, to date this podcast now, as I will, for those that are listening in the year 2025,
it's a hellscape.
Well, so my first question is, it's not really a question, actually, it's more of a statement. So I do feel that there's a huge thing about nostalgia at the moment, but it's a recent nostalgia. So it's people looking back to last summer. Summer we were doing this was so much better. And then my second thing that I was going to say is, I wonder if there will come a point one day where people are saying, oh, do you know what, it was so much fucking easier in lockdown, I haven't got to deal with all this shit, it was easier being
just to date this particular talk a little bit more, today is the first day of lockdown easing, which is where they've opened non-essential shops, and people have been queuing overnight,
like Primark.
In Primark. I mean, for fuck's sake, yeah.
I mean,
although I think there's a little bit of classism going on there, because people were queuing up outside posh shops too, but let's take the piss out of the working classes who are queuing up outside Primark and Sports Direct.
£1.50.
But the thing is I read a thing recently that was talking about, well, I say recently, pre-COVID, so in the olden days, to go back to what you were saying, about trying to be a bit more environmentally friendly.
Yes.
Try not to buy new clothes every month. And I was like, what do you mean don't buy clothes? Who's buying new clothes every month? Well, of course, there are people who buy new clothes every bloody day. Yeah, there's every week.
Shopaholics. There's
Yeah. So it's those people who, but that's fast fashion, and it's so bad for the environment. It's so bad for a lot. Look, I do shop at Primark because I'm very poor and earning, but I buy stuff from Primark and it lasts me more than a year. This stripy top that I'm wearing is from Asda.
It's lovely.
Thanks. It's sparkly.
You can't tell.
No, you can't. No, but it's got some sparkle. I tell you what happened is, when you go through security at an airport, the metal bits make the scanner beep.
Yeah, fucking hell.
So don't wear sparkly clothes.
Do you look like a disco ball when you go like out to a club?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. It's been a long time since I went to a club. In the olden days,
as we were saying,
it's not actually. It's not. It's been this year.
Yeah, but as we were saying, everyone's already missing that shit.
No, I know. So, but I've had this for like 3 years, 4 years, and so it cost me, I don't know, not more than a tenner, because not for this sort of top, I wouldn't spend more than a tenner, of course not. Yeah. So it is fast fashion because it's cheap and it's probably not that ethical, and it's not made by some sort of, I don't know, posh tailor.
Yeah.
But I don't treat it as fast fashion. I still own it. I've still got things in my cupboard from donkeys ago, and it's from Primark or Matalan or these very highbrow shops that I go to.
Sure.
But I think people shouldn't be encouraged to throw shit away, basically.
No. I mean, I think there's a handful of people. I was saying to Hayley today, I totally agree. It's fucking why are you itching to go to Primark? But I think there is a handful of people that it's got nothing to do with going to buy stuff. It's got everything to do with they've been stuck indoors and they just can't cope, and that is fair enough. I mean, try and stay safe, obviously, but
that's the That's my worry.
But that's more of a mental thing, isn't it? That's
yeah.
More of
but you could go out before.
Yeah.
And also, I think people need to learn how to live with themselves more.
Oh God, yeah.
Instead of going to the shop.
And that's
I appreciate that. Yes, window shopping and browsing is a fun activity, and we've all done it. Particularly when we were younger. I don't know about you, but like me and my mates, we would wander around because
we didn't have no fucking
nothing,
money.
No, exactly.
So you would just look
no money, nothing to do,
and imagine.
Look at stuff. Yeah, exactly.
You know.
But I do think, though, that if that's the case, that's fine, and I understand it. But it feels like what has happened is people have gone, oh, I'm bored now. I don't care that there's this pandemic going on. And the government doesn't fucking help on either side of the bloody pond. This country and America are too keen on capitalism, right? So they want us out there spending our buck or our
fucking
pound,
far too so that about money,
but it doesn't so it doesn't matter that 100,000 people are going to die. Fuck them, they're going to die anyway, probably poor. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the problem. Which
again pisses me off, because it's like, if there's one thing that I've taken from this whole thing, is that I don't need to be doing stuff like that. I don't need to be out in my car all the time. I don't need to be shopping. I don't actually want to be doing that stuff. And there is a massive impact on the planet, and that still fucks me off. Like everything that goes on, and whatever party you're in, or whatever party you're campaigning, the planet is very low on their list most of the time.
Oh yeah.
And it really, and now
because it costs money, and it doesn't get any money.
No,
do you know what I mean?
But
it could.
It could, but it's not instant money, and that's what they're after.
No.
They want instant money.
Oh yeah.
They're not fucking patient.
I've been reading a lot of, and they're very funny. I read a lot of memes anyway. So there was one. It was a picture of a crowded restaurant, and they'd made it like sepia toned, and they'd written
like a modern restaurant.
Yeah. It was like from January, right? Yeah. But they'd made it sepia so that it looked old timey, and then he said, "Picture of the olden days."
And that's what I mean. Already we're.
And
looking
I was
back.
like, but that's quite fun. I thought it was quite fun.
Already we're looking back. What are you nostalgic for? Like what do you get nostalgic about?
I quite enjoyed nursery. The thing is, James, I'm quite a miserable person.
You're not.
Know if you know this.
It's not one
People
of the.
say you're so positive. I'm like,
it's not one of the words I would use to describe you.
No, I know, but I am.
But then you wouldn't say that about me. You wouldn't.
I don't know. I see glimpses.
I do like to moan about.
I see glimpses of it. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think, like I was talking to someone, I can't remember who, and I was saying, I think it might have even been Kel, and she was like, when were you last happiest? And I was like, I don't know, I was about 3, it was pretty good. No, and then I went, nah, even then I was a bit pissed off. I don't know, what do I get I get nostalgic about not having to go to work. That period of your life when you could work.
Right, okay.
But
so you mean...
You know what I mean? Like 17
sort
of time.
Yeah.
Where it's nice to have
it was a little
money.
Limbo, wasn't it? It was a little limbo period of being a kid and becoming an adult. And it was kind of...
So I do, I suppose. But then I look back at that period and remember that it was a real bad period generally. Because like I'd fucked my GCSEs up, and then like when I was 18 I did retake GCSE, and then when I was 19 I was doing A levels, and then I failed. So I did all right in my GCSE. This sort of suggests that I'm quite thick. I did all right in my GCSEs, but not quite good enough to do A levels. So I retook the GCSE so that I could do A levels, and then I did that and I fucked it. I got one A level English.
But you still went to university, so
I did later. And then,
but
this is the joke, right?
You're like me. At that age, I was done with learning, and then I got a bit older, and I wanted to learn. I wanted to.
I think that my problem was I felt like if I tried really hard and I failed, then like I feel like the only thing I've got going for me is I'm quite clever a bit. And so if I tried really hard and then I failed, I'm not even clever. So I just didn't try.
Right.
And I would just drink. Anyway.
So you're nostalgic for them times.
Thanks for this counselling session.
That's quite all right.
No, I don't know. I get nostalgic for.
Do you get nostalgic when you listen to certain music or watch certain films?
Yeah, but you know what? The problem is like I get an overwhelming sense of like one particular moment. For example, right? One of my favourite albums is Portishead's Dummy, and I had it on tape.
Yep.
And I think it was somebody had recorded it for me, so it wasn't even like a proper, like I think, because now I do own it on CD. I'm pretty sure it didn't have the last song on it on this tape. Anyway, so I remember walking down a particular street, and it was a particular time. You know, when you can remember the way that the sky looked, and it was a very cold
you've just
December
taken
morning.
everything in.
Yes. And I remember listening to Sour Times and just being like, this is so, I don't know, for some reason that moment crystallized in my head. And every time I listen to that album and that song comes on, I remember that and there's nothing happened. I was going to the bus stop, I was going to school.
No, but I mean,
but it's that sort of thing that I get this sort of overwhelming, oh my God, that one moment. You know.
But you know what? That is the power of music. And I guess film and TV to an extent, but with music. And I'll tell you something. What I do is whenever we go away on holiday, I buy a new album, an album that I haven't listened to. And usually I try and buy something that's got relation to where we're going.
Yeah.
So, for instance, Honeymoon, California. There were California bands. They were albums about California.
Yeah.
And we were listening to them driving along past the Big Sur and all that.
Girls.
Well, she was definitely on one of them.
Oh, right, okay.
But whole albums, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're one of these type of people,
Tupac,
California Love, God, he was on there. If you're them type of people that I think you and I are, who have them moments, as you say, of crystallization, of taking everything in that moment, it always stays with you. And then that album itself becomes a time machine. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, of course, yeah.
And you go straight back to where you were. And so I do that on every holiday now. So whenever I listen to that album, it's going back to a time, not just holidays, other things, but it like certain events. You know,
I don't really go on holiday.
And I mean, maybe I should do a lockdown
by myself. Maybe you should.
Yeah, to remember this time.
Leia and I were discussing like good songs to put on a COVID party soundtrack.
Yeah.
But I lost the list. It was just a lot of like.
I tell you what,
all by myself.
I tell you what is a good one. Band on the Run.
Yeah. I just love that song.
Stuck inside these four walls.
That's how I was listening to that song
forever.
A lot before I moved out.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
I love that song. It's such a good song. And it's like 14 songs in one.
People
go on about Bohemian Rhapsody, but they forget Band on the Run exists.
Oh, God, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
Yeah.
It's because Linda McCartney was not a great singer, right?
No.
So everything that Paul McCartney did after the Beatles, people are like very poo-pooing about it.
No, Wings
and
are
I
good.
think it's unfair because Rupert and the Frog song is one of the finest songs ever ever made. And I will you'll
defend that till you die.
I will defend it till I die. That is one of those that, you know, we were saying you watch something over and over again when you're a kid. Every day after nursery, I'd put that tape on. And
again, I watch that and I think of my dad. I think of them times, you know. So I mean, a lot of these things, and and that's why I think nostalgia's a bigger thing now with kind of media formats.
It's
and
just
because,
more accessible, isn't it?
you've
Which is
got a
great.
you've got a time machine now that you
In a
can
way.
put on straight away, and you
You were asking about putting on songs that remind you. The problem is that although I do listen to some modern things, don't get me, I'm not one of those old people. I even like Justin Bieber now.
Yeah.
I'll admit it.
Well, I
For
mean,
the world to hear. Listen, I don't
think
care.
this will be our
Life's
last
short.
conversation.
Life's short. We're nearly dead. I'm almost 40.
But I ain't listening to Justin Bieber.
Yeah, but listen, do what makes you happy, all right? It's no one's getting hurt. I'm not making you listen to Justin Bieber.
My ears are hurting from listening.
But you're not listening to it. I'm not making you listen to it. I've got headphones.
Wanker, that's what he is.
So is most people, let's be honest.
He's done one good song because it's catchy, and that was Baby. And the only reason I like that
I disagree.
It's because a pop punk band did a cover of it, and it was better than I'll tell you, this cover, you can polish a turd. I'll tell you that.
Well, I know. I wear makeup.
Him and Ed Sheeran need to fall down well.
I don't really like Ed Sheeran. Yeah. Anyway, but my point being that it's not that I don't listen to any modern music. However, I do constantly listen to the same music that I always have. So I will always listen to Korn and Slipknot and Oasis and Blur and Hall & Oates and Rage Against the Machine and Brandy.
So my point is that, without thinking about it, is that a subconscious form of nostalgia? It's stuff you're familiar with, isn't it? And stuff that you know and love. It's like watching.
I'll tell you the last time I had. No. Listen, you're going to love this. I'll tell you the last time I had this like overwhelming, like almost gasp of nostalgia.
Go on.
I think it was on the Wii, or it might have been on something else. Anyway, one of these consoles you could download old video games.
Yes.
I had the Master System 2.
Oh.
Sega Master System 2, right? And in that was inbuilt Alex Kidd in Miracle World, which is my favorite video game, right?
Yeah.
And I played it every day. Yeah. When I was a kid, every single day.
He had like a giant fist, didn't he? Do you remember?
He did. Yeah, I do. I still play it. Well, I can't remember what console I had it on most recently, but anyway, I did still play it. Anyway, I downloaded it, and when I turned on the thing and the music started, I was so like, I was almost like emotional. Do you know what I mean? I was, almost driven to tears of how like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Yeah. So Alex Kidd in Miracle World, that's what I'm nostalgic about.
But that's why I think nostalgia is a positive thing. We live through so much shit nowadays, and like, whether it's...
I think it can be a positive, but this is my point, is that when people are nostalgic to the point where I think it's almost debilitating, then it ain't positive, is it? Like,
I guess nostalgia...
Because there is a point where you need to grow up and...
Okay, maybe nostalgia is positive if when you look back, you're looking forward, in the sense that you are... And it can be something as simple as watching your favourite film and thinking, one day I'm going to show my own children that film, and I hope they get the same amount of enjoyment. But also, I hope that...
Yeah, but how disappointing is it when you do
it is,
and they don't like it?
I mean...
Like, I showed my niece Bugsy Malone.
She's like, what the fuck is this?
She was about 7... And I loved that film when
she was like, why has that little boy got a moustache?
She was like, she said, this is boring. I was furious.
No, that crushes you. But if it could be a circle, I could show my little boy Bill Murray in Ghostbusters or Groundhog Day. And one day when he's like 18, every time he watches that, he thinks of his old dad. And in the circle, it just goes round and round and round. And that's a good thing. I think if you're nostalgic and you're looking back on positives, then try and bring them into the future, surely. Try and learn from from the positives in life. Surely that's what you should do with nostalgia.
I just think that nostalgia is like a comfort blanket, isn't it? But sometimes,
Yeah, well, you
know,
said an article
like
about
it's
TV
like
being
it's
a safety blanket.
Yeah, but like it is that. But just like there comes a point where you need to learn when you can put that safety blanket away.
Gotcha. But
right,
there will always
so
come
that's
a
what
point
I mean.
in your life.
I suppose don't use it as a crutch, right?
No, but use it as rather than a safety blanket. Well, I suppose you could still word it as a safety blanket, but rather than use it as that as such, use it as a comfort, as a you know, like for instance, you wasn't well and you stayed in bed and you rewatched something that you love, and it's just that little kind of bit of medicine. Just
of
kind
course.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't dwell on it.
But
Don't
I suppose
look back
also
and be like, oh, I missed this time. I wish it was back to. Move on.
Well, and also don't, because there are some people that I know that are like, I remember when I worked in the bookshop, there'd be all these snobby wankers who were like, I don't read anything that's like written by anyone that's still alive. And I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I like Stephen King. Get a life. Do you know what I mean? I'm not hurting you.
So this is my issue, is that nostalgia lately is mixed with hipsters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, oh my God, it's so cool to dress like I was.
Let me tell you something about hipsters.
And it's
the
like,
problem with
don't
hipsters, they like things ironically, right?
But they don't realise they like things ironically.
No, they do, because it's like, oh my God, this is so lame. I love it. And I'm like, but I like it. I just like it. I don't think it's lame, and I like it. Because if you came to my flat, you would look around, and you've been to my old flat, you know, it's very similar, just smaller. And you'd be like, yeah, it's kind of hipstery. There are elements of hipsterness, right? You could class it as like ironic Coca-Cola stuff and ironic Barbie doll.
Yeah.
But you know me well enough to know that I genuinely like those things. And I have a record player because my dad bought me one. And I own, you know, I don't know, bullshit because that's what I like, right?
Yeah.
Not because I think it's quirky and cool. No. I just like it.
I mean, if you've got a fucking painting of Bruce Lee on your wall, I want you to know who Bruce Lee is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want it up there. Just because,
no, my God.
What the fuck?
That reminds me of, I once went out for a drink with some guy from work, and we were meeting his mates, and it was like two different groups of friends of his who didn't know each other very well.
Right.
And one of them was wearing a Joy Division t-shirt, and I like one Joy Division song. Yeah, that one. Yeah. You know, Love Will Tear Us Apart. Of course, it's a great song.
Yeah.
I like New Order more because they were more around when I was young. Anyway.
Yeah. Sure.
Anyway, this kid basically was wearing this Joy Division t-shirt, and a guy from the sort of other group was like, do you like Joy Division then? Yeah. And this Joy Division t-shirt was like, well, yeah. And he's like, name all their songs.
5 songs or something.
It was,
like
yeah. And this guy was like, well, why should I? And he's like, why are you wearing it if you don't really like them?
But he's right.
You're like a poser. But it came to blows, James.
Well, don't fucking wear it then, you mug.
No, but he genuinely did like Joy Division. This guy just took umbrage and assumed that he was wearing it to be a hipster poser.
But how did it then come to blows? Because if I was wearing my Ramones,
because
some old
guy was like,
to me, name me 5 Ramones.
Yeah, but that's the point.
I would do it straight away.
That's the
then
point.
The conversation would have been ended.
No, James, this is the point. Some old punk rocker.
Yeah.
They're both the same age.
Who are?
These two that had fisticuffs, they were the same age.
Oh, okay.
Yes, no, it wasn't like.
So it wasn't like an old guy who knew.
No.
Oh,
they were just they were like 20-year-olds.
Right.
One of whom decided that he was the best Joy Division fan, and
is that the one in the t-shirt?
No, the one not wearing a t-shirt, and was like
exactly.
Joy Division t-shirt, liked Joy Division and was wearing a Joy Division t-shirt.
Right.
Hipster comes over and is like, oh, do you like Joy Division then? And the geezer's Joy Division t-shirt's like, yeah, that's why I'm wearing a t-shirt. And then Hipster's like, oh, well, name 5 of their songs then. And T-shirt is saying, well, why should I? Who the fuck are you?
So T-shirt guy took umbrage. He didn't want. He was like, why do I have to prove myself? Fuck
right,
off.
and why should he fucking prove himself?
Okay, I get
Who the
you.
fuck is this geezer?
Yeah,
rocking up, being all, you know, you're the same age.
Do you know?
And then trying to get me involved, being like, what do you think? And I was like, the geezer can wear any fucking t-shirt he wants. I couldn't care less.
So what
yes,
happened?
I do think they had a fight. They had an actual fist fight.
Well, a fisticuff fight.
Yes, properly fight, because Hipster was drunk. All right, and he just wanted to get pissed off.
Or was it that love for Joy Division will tear us apart?
I don't know what it was. I mean, that's the only fucking song I know.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to get me involved because I was a bit older, and I was like, I only know the one song, mate. And I'm not wearing a Joy Division t-shirt. Great song.
But do you know what I blame? I blame the commercialism.
Ian Curtis.
Of the clothes shops for
I agree.
jumping on the nostalgia bandwagon and using.
Listen, I used to buy band t-shirts from Portobello Road Market because I'm really cool.
Yep.
When I was like 16.
Yep. I mean, I'm seeing to you. Oh no, I thought I was wearing a Ramones t-shirt, but I was wearing it earlier on. I'm actually wearing a Buzz Lightyear.
Are you changed?
I am changed. I had a bar.
Name 5 of his songs.
Oh, Buzz Lightyear's. You got a friend in me. The Spanish version, but he sings the Spanish version at the end of number 3.
He does.
But it's the Gypsy Kings, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love the Gypsy Kings.
Fucking amazing.
What was I watching yesterday? And it was the Great British Sewing Bee.
Oh, Hayley watches that.
It's good. I like it.
And do you know
it's
what?
Better than baking.
Again, going back to the theme of today, they did an 80s episode, didn't they, a couple of weeks ago?
They did, yeah.
Nostalgia. Everyone loves it. You've got things like Stranger Things. Every year.
The thing about the thing about the 80s, right, is they always have the same fucking clothing, right? Like the fluorescent neon shit and like rah-rah skirts. I don't remember anyone wearing a rah-rah skirt. I know I was brought up with the boys.
That's why I like Stranger Things.
The boys weren't wearing a rah-rah skirt.
Because they don't.
Yeah. No,
Stranger Things is very...
I like Stranger Things.
Yeah. And it's weird for me, but I think my nostalgic thing at the moment is the 80s. And I was born in the 80s, but I would consider myself a 90s child because...
how old are you when the 80s ended?
So I was born mid-80s.
Yeah, so you were like 5.
Yeah, so... But my younger memories stem from the 90s. They stem from Britney Spears and Spice Girls and Oasis, you know? So I'm very much a 90s child. But I'm going through this thing at the moment where, 80s... It's weird, isn't it? Nostalgia for an era that you wasn't even part of is very strange. Again, it's probably a hipster thing, isn't it? Nostalgia for an era.
No, I don't think so, because when me and my friend were teenagers, we would talk about the 60s and the 70s and how cool it was.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Without knowing, obviously.
But then, well, I knew enough. But you know, the fashion of the 60s was lovely.
Oh,
right?
good.
Mary Quant dresses. And
things,
beautiful,
right? beautiful.
Yeah. So that's more what, and I always really liked flares. And when they came back in the 90s, I was the first on that bandwagon because I fucking loved flares.
Yeah,
they're comfy, man. Anyway, this is years ago now, and we were talking to her daughter who was about 15 at the time, and the daughter was talking about how cool the 90s were and how amazing it would have been to be like listening to Nirvana at the time, and oh my God, we were like, the 90s weren't like that. Do you know what I mean? The 90s were like, grunge was a thing, but it was quite niche at the time because we really liked grunge, but we weren't in Seattle.
No.
The internet wasn't a thing, right? So things were much slower in the 90s. Like you didn't really get news or like trends in that way. very quickly.
Yeah,
and so you're trying
yeah.
to, and like, so she was talking about all these different bands, and I was like, but you're talking about bands that were like years apart. So it wasn't like we had all of that music at once. You know what I mean?
It was a gradual thing,
this,
wasn't it?
and then this, and then this.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
then this.
a decade, 10 years is a long time for gradual, and then you
10 years.
you compartmentalize it, don't you? So
Of course you
when
do.
you look to the nought, when you get to the noughties or the 10s or the 20s, you're then looking back and you're going, oh, the 90s, and in the, you know, and you see it in 90s documentaries. In the space of an hour, they've covered the best parts of the 90s, you know, and it's
I keep
looking back
reading
on
that,
the best parts.
Yes, I keep reading that these kids today are referring to the late 90s as the late 1900s.
What the fuck?
And I'm like, don't do that.
Is that supposed to be a cool thing, or?
I don't know. I think it's an American thing.
I remember you said to me once, when we had a conversation when we were actually together, saying nostalgia. Well, you said to me, we were talking about this before, and you said to me, nostalgia is what you make it.
How deep am I, eh?
Well, yeah.
Don't you think? Because, yeah, go on.
No, I was going to ask you, like, what do you mean by that? But what's your thoughts? Can you elaborate on how is nostalgia what you make it, basically?
Well, I suppose because my point being, people look back, they talk about nostalgia, and they look back with rose-tinted glasses, don't they? And it's what we were touching upon earlier, where you only look back at the good things, and you either miss it and want to go back and live in that moment, or, as we were saying, that what we try to do is you look back and you remember those moments and, you know, enjoy that feeling of nostalgia for that period of time, or for that item, or that film, or what have you, but take it with you into looking at the future. So you know, I know that you want children, and you're looking forward to sharing the things that you're nostalgic for now. You're looking forward to sharing that with your children. And I don't want kids, so that's not what I think. But I enjoy, because a lot of my friends are a little bit younger than me, I do enjoy showing my younger friends things from when I was a kid, and being like, this is the reference that I was making, or this is the fun thing that was on. And I do enjoy that, or like with my niece, or with my friends' kids. And so that's what I think is either you make it a negative, where you look back and you want to live in that moment in the past that we can't, like I said earlier, you can't go back there. You cannot revisit it in a proper solid way. And also, I think we should never forget that we are cherry picking our memories, because if you look at the sort of overview of the past, a lot of it was terrible. Nowadays is going to be the good old days in 10 or 20 years time, right? You know, there are things about today that I enjoy. I enjoy my friendships. I enjoy doing this podcast with you, for example. There are some great things on telly. There are some good songs that I like. And in 10 or 20 years time, I'll be like, oh my days, that's such a great tune, or whatever.
I remember them parts.
Yes. I mean, I don't know about you, but there are a couple of compilation CDs that I have that are like 100 greatest hits of the 90s or whatever. And at the time, I didn't really like those songs, but now it comes on in a club and I'm like, this is a tune. Like, not really.
I've always
hated it at the time.
I've always had this theory, you know, like the Now albums. They're only good 10 years down the line.
They like really
you bring out a Now album at the end of the year. It's like, fuck's sake, you know, I've already downloaded this. I've already heard it 1,000 times, whatever, a load of bollocks. 10 years.
Absolutely true. What number are they up to now? It got a bit confusing because America has their own numbering system. My brother has it on tape, but I have on vinyl now too.
Now 2. Fuck mine, you are old.
Well, I didn't buy it at the time. Bought it in a charity shop.
105 apparently. 8th of May,
Jesus
2020. A
Christ.
quiet year.
I've got Now 12 on my
They're
CD rack.
they are, and again, they are amazing for nostalgic. I bet you any money that Now albums sell better a few years later. I wouldn't buy a Now album of the year that I'm in now.
I did
But-
once.
But maybe 10 years down the line, I might be more inclined to buy it.
Do you want to know what's on
what I
this?
call 105, which is 2020. So this is Now 12. This is Now 12.
Now 12. I don't even know half of these songs, to be honest. Doctoring the TARDIS by the Time Lords.
Oh, brilliant. That is the Doctor Who theme. But in
so
that's the Doctor Who theme, but it's mixed up with Gary Glitter, isn't it? Woo!
Great.
Yeah.
I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany.
I think we're alone now.
Love that
Doesn't
song.
seem to be everyone.
Oh my God.
Go
Nothing's gonna change my love for you.
Who sung that?
Glenn Medeiros.
Medeiros. Go on. What other? Because the people listening to this now.
Push It by Salt and Pepper. Push It real good.
If this doesn't get you nostalgic, I don't know what will.
I don't know half of these. Right, I'm just going to read them, okay?
Go on.
With a little
All
help
of
from my
them?
friend.
Fuck mine.
No, well, really quickly. With a little help from my friend
Joe
by
Cocker.
Wet, Wet, Wet. No, by
Oh,
Wet, Wet, Wet.
fuck mine.
Because it's now
We don't want that,
12,
we don't want
baby.
that. So this
Wild
is 80s,
World.
isn't it? If it's 80s,
Yeah.
it'll be 90s.
Yeah. This will be 80s. Let me figure it out.
No. It might be. It's definitely. It's either late 80s or early 90s.
It's 88 because it's In the Air Tonight, 88 remix, Phil Collins.
Okay.
I was 6.
Is there any other gems on there?
Not really. Jesus Christ.
Well, you missed
This
that
is
In
like
the Air
the
Tonight,
best.
so I don't fucking know. You could have missed out a golden great.
Wild World by Maxi Priest, which is a great song.
Don't know.
Give a Little Love by Aswad.
Oh, Aswad. Fuck mine.
I know Aswad.
Yeah.
My favourite is Shine.
Shine
like a star.
Shine like a star. Shining so bright wherever you are.
I Want You Back by Bananarama. Boys by Sabrina. Summertime Love. Theme from S Express. Do you know, I think I bought this because it was before downloading music was easy.
A thing.
And I bought it I remember buying it from a charity shop for about 50p. And I bought it because it has I Think We're Alone Now on it. And I fucking love that song.
But that is a prime example of nostalgia, isn't it? Surely that is like you've seen that and it's got that on it and you're like, I remember a time when I loved that song. I'm going to buy this whole fucking album. So,
oh yeah,
it's interesting what you said about obviously me wanting to have children because I'm almost nostalgic for a time I haven't had yet. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm looking forward to looking back on that time.
I wonder if there's a word for that.
Yeah, I wonder.
I'm going to Google it. This is how my brain works.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like
I do.
I look forward to the future. And I look forward to the future of that future, looking back. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to be able to look back on that time.
Oh, here we go.
Because if you're nostalgic for an era that you wasn't even a part of, what's nostalgic for an era that you haven't got to yet?
There is a word called desiderium, which comes from the word desidare, meaning to long for.
Okay. So yeah, I guess Oh, it's weird, isn't it?
What's this? Anamoa. What's this? Somebody. Shut up. Who cares what you fucking say? Somebody on Reddit. Do you ever read Reddit?
Yeah, do I? Yeah. Only when I want to find out if the Blu-ray extras on something's any good. That's about it. So,
I do look at shower thoughts.
What?
Shower thoughts?
No.
You never seen that?
No.
You know those there's a word for them, those sites that like amalgamate other things.
Porn.
No, not porn. You know, like Dump a Day, and there's like loads of funny pictures, and most of them are taken from Reddit. And so instead of having to search through Reddit yourself, you just look at like 20.
No,
great
I didn't know
memes.
this existed. No.
Oh yeah, like Pleated Jeans does it. So
I mean,
look at all of those.
You are the curator.
I am on
of
the internet a lot,
as far as I'm concerned.
Too much. I know. I'm a bad woman. It's
And do you know what though? I
to
want to put it down to lockdown, but you were a curator of the internet way before lockdown kicked in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, the worst invention for me was
because one day when our minds have gone past the internet and we're on a different plane of existence, you will be teaching people about the internet. That'll be fucking nostalgia.
The singularity. When the singularity happens, and we become one with the machine. Yeah.
We're like Legion, aren't we?
Yeah. I can't wait.
We're all Legion. And
I can't wait to be uploaded onto the internet.
Almost like a Gestalt entity. That's what we'll end up being, won't we?
And I love it. I'm looking forward to it.
Fuck mine.
You know, in The Matrix, the movie, I was reading about it today because I was at work.
Yeah, and there's a sequel coming.
Yeah.
Again,
I never watched. I never saw part 3.
Let's play on nostalgia.
I never saw part 3.
And actually, once you've made your point, I want to say something about when it comes to Keanu Reeves and nostalgia. I want to say something, but you say what you're going to say about The Matrix.
Well, you know, they talk about would you take the red pill or the blue pill, mate? I want to stay in the Matrix. You think I want to be a bloody weird slimy battery? You crazy?
Yeah. More fun.
Come on,
more fun.
If they said, do you want to stay in the Matrix or know the truth? I'd be like, I want to stay in the Matrix.
Yeah.
So, Keanu Reeves.
What's
your fucking problem?
The trailer came out for Bill and Ted 3.
Oh, yeah.
And even though it looks a bit naff, all this nostalgia feels, I'm like, I'm in. I'm in.
You know what? Look. I like Bill and Ted, and I don't mind a sequel. You know, I'm not that sort of person. I do sort of feel, though, like it's too late.
It is too late, but I'm still fucking in. You've got William Sadler, Bracker's death. Looks, once you put the makeup on and the bald cap, it fucking look the same.
I'm sure it's going to be great and all of that. I just feel like...
I get...
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. You need to have, there is a certain point, and that's what I mean. It looks a bit naff. You've got Keanu and Alex Winters trying to be cool dudes.
Totally.
But grown up.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, I don't need to see that. But at the same time, I want to see that. I don't need to see it.
No, of course. But that's the thing is they're marketing to people like you who are like,
I didn't like Dumb and Dumber 2.
No, and I was just about to say,
I still fucking
one of my favourite films is Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah,
I love it so much. It's such a good film.
It's so perfect, and you don't need another one. And all the elements come together. Jeff Daniels, Jim Carrey, the Farrelly brothers,
because they left it too long. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but also, but look, I'm not a fan of Wayne's World 2.
Do you know what my theory is? Well, it's not a theory; it's fact. People evolve over time, and the problem with something like Dumb and Dumber 2, regardless of whether the concept is two dumb characters, they will evolve over time. Whereas with Dumb and Dumber 2,
they did not.
They didn't. If they would have brought out Dumb and Dumber 2 a couple of years after the first one, different.
Just like Ace Ventura 1. No, is great. No, listen,
Number 2 is good,
and that's what I was about to say.
Okay,
because they didn't leave such a massive gap.
No,
and it's still the same character.
Yeah. It was just in a different location.
Yeah. Great, it works. Ghostbusters 2, I don't think is such a great film, but
it still works.
At least it works. It wasn't that long afterwards.
And also, they
our fave trilogy.
It's that's a day in the life. That's a day in the life of McFly.
Right. So that's my point. Is with this, like The Matrix, and with Bill and Ted, I just feel like it's been too long, man. You know, like, look, I love Beetlejuice, and there's been talk every now and then about a sequel, and I just think, I mean it kind of could work, I suppose, because he's dead, so and it should be a whole different story.
And this is the thing with pop culture using nostalgia. It does work. I mean, even though it's probably going to be rubbish, I would go and see that. Do you know what I mean? Because you want to try and grab a bit of how you felt. You'll probably be very disappointed by the end of a sequel that's like that.
But that's the problem.
And go back to the original. But it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of people moaning about the Ghostbusters. Do you know what? It don't fucking stop the first one from being amazing.
No, that's true.
You, by all means, please use everyone's interest in nostalgia to make a bit of money, but you won't change the past. You won't change the past, will you?
But that's what I think we were talking, about with Ghostbusters, the remake. I feel like I didn't mind it, and I don't care that they're women. I just feel like they could have done it better.
Yeah, definitely.
It just felt
it was
really
a bit flat, if I'm honest.
Yeah, because it felt like a reboot, and it didn't have to be. It could have just been in universe.
But also,
then you showed me that Paul Rudd's going to be in a fucking Ghostbusters. Like, that's what it could have been.
Yeah, that is a prime example of my point with nostalgia. Don't dwell on it. Don't get negative. Look back on the past, learn from it, and then move forward. Yeah,
that's the point about learning about history.
Yeah,
is you are doomed to repeat history.
Yeah. Nostalgia is all well and good.
Don't learn from it. Yeah. No, absolutely, I agree.
If you and that's the thing with a lot of nostalgia is looking back on the positives. So do you know what? Fucking learn, because you might get to a point where things are a little bit better than they used to be.
Well, I mean, I think things are better than they used to be, despite what
they are. But everyone always still finds something wrong, don't they?
No, I know, but there's famously there's some sort of I think it's like 13th century monk who wrote about the youth of today, and if you take the quote out of just read it out of
context,
it could be applied to any bloody era, and then it turns out it's like
it's a bit like fucking horoscopes, isn't it? We'll make it a bit,
but what I mean is that the older generation always complains about the youth of today.
Oh, of course.
Whatever today.
We'll end up doing it to the younger. We probably already are, aren't we?
I did it when I was a kid. I moaned about the youth of today. I never liked my peers. No, I don't like the adults either. I don't like other people.
Do you know what? Life is a circle, and it goes round and round and round. Circle of life. And it does, though, doesn't it? Like,
have you been watching The Lion King again?
Always.
Do you know my favourite fact about that?
Go on.
You know the beginning when it's like, it's just Swahili for like, oh, it's a lion. Look, it's a lion.
Is it really?
Yeah. I love it.
Fantastic. Yeah, it is. All I'm saying is, in 100 years' time, there'll be another two saps
we'll be dead
doing a podcast about nostalgia, saying exactly the same fucking shit that we have.
But it won't be a podcast. It will be.
It'll be a singularity cast.
It'll be some sort of neurotransmitter.
It'll just be downloaded straight into your head.
Yeah.
Or we'll all be part of a cloud. So.
A cloud is just someone else's computer, man. It's just a server in the desert, man.
This has been a Head Full of Straw production of Vicky Goes On and On with Vicky Stokes and James Wells.